What is going on? In this video, we're talking about hyperlapses and how easy it is to make them with a gimbal. I went down to the beach today. I shot some awesome hyperlapses, just played around with my buddy Mike. It's spring break and the beach is absolutely nuts right now. What I wanted to show you with this video is how easy it is to make a hyperlapse with just a gimbal. The traditional way to make a hyperlapse is to actually use a tripod and basically shoot a time lapse, but you move the tripod X amount of inches or feet to make the movement so you get this really cool effect where you're going towards something, away from something, on the side of something, around something. The hyperlapse is awesome, and when it's done correctly and you measure out every step of the way, the footage is unbelievable. However, that takes a lot of time to do, and for a lot of us, we don't have the time to basically spend 2-3 hours and move our camera through a space that goes from all the way down at the beach to the other end of the pier. Especially when you're traveling, hyperlapses are really cool to add into your travel films, but you don't want to spend all your vacation making a hyperlapse. What I wanted to do was show you how easy it is to make a hyperlapse with just a gimbal. And a gimbal is something that a lot of us carry all the time. I always travel with my gimbal because I know that a gimbal can be used in so many ways. If you've seen my other videos on this channel, you'll see how much I use gimbals and all the different ways in which I use a gimbal. So we're talking hyperlapses. And the key with a hyperlapse is basically to do the same thing that you're gonna do if you were to do it in the traditional way, which is go from point A to point B, set up your shot from point A to point B, and go at a steady pace between the two. And you record footage instead of photos the entire way. You can do photos if you set it at an interval, but it's easier just to roll the camera and just shoot video. First things first is you gotta pick your gimbal that you're gonna use. I have a wide range of gimbals that I like using. The one I picked up recently is the A2000 from HYPERLAPSE. It's a really cool gimbal that gives you the ability to have 2 handles instead of 1, like the Zion crane. And personally, I like the feeling of having 2 handles. It feels more stable to me, and it's one of those things I like having to do these more advanced shots where it takes time to produce. The cool thing about the HYPERLAPSE is that it also allows you to do a single grip use. So when I'm traveling, I can have one gimbal and I could have the dual grip, but also the single grip to be lighter and smaller. Both of them fold up nice and small and go in your backpack, but the 2 handles definitely is a little bit bigger. All right, so you have your gimbal all set up, it's balanced. That's like the most important thing, is you have to have it balanced properly because you don't want crazy vibrations all over. And what you're gonna do is set up your shot before you even start shooting. So you need to pick a point at the beginning of a frame and you need to pick a point at the end. So whether that is the same shot just closer to it, or you wanna move the camera so you see a different perspective. So now that you have that in mind, what your point A and point B is, now what you're gonna do is walk at a steady pace between point A and point B and try to keep your movement as smooth as possible. Obviously, we're not gonna be perfect. We're doing this very fast. Some of these shots that I've shown you in this video, it took me 2 minutes, a minute to basically get from point A to point B. So there's definitely gonna be some error in there. And that's one of the things, when you move fast and you take less time to set up a shot and make a shot, it's not gonna be as fluid as if you were to do a traditional hyperlapse where you put a tripod and you take hours to do it. However, you can get some really good results out of the gimbal. So now you've done your movement from point A to point B. What you can do is when you're there in the location, quickly review that clip. You can speed it up in your camera. You see if you move the camera in any crazy way so that it doesn't have fluidity from beginning to end, and just repeat the shot. The beauty of this is that these are quick. It's easy to do a time lapse in this style because you're able to go from point A to point B in such a short amount of time. You could do it a few times just to make sure you got it right. And one last thing before we go into editing this footage. When you're walking with a gimbal, you need to use proper technique so that you don't have a lot of up and down bouncing. So proper technique is sitting a little lower and bracing yourself so your hands could stay stable. All right, you want to brace so that you keep the gimbal level. You're going to try to keep the gimbal as perfect as possible. We don't want to leave a lot for the editing software to try and fix, because you can fix a lot of these bumps and issues when you're out shooting. So just sit a little bit lower and walk with a consistent pace from point A to point B, and try not to move up and down, left and right too much to bump the gimbal and give you any shakes. So now you have some awesome footage. What do you do next? The key is you got to stabilize it. You got to give it that extra stabilization. The gimbal is one level of stabilization, and now we're going to go into our software and add a second level of stabilization. And when you do this, that's how you get that buttery, smooth looking footage. I work in Final Cut X, so the stabilizer isn't as good as if you're in Premiere. The warp stabilizer in Premiere and After Effects is amazing. So if you're working in Adobe products, you have a little bit of an advantage there. However, the inertia cam in Final Cut does a pretty good job. So you just gotta dial in your settings to what works best with the footage that you have. Another piece of software that I use sometimes is called Lock and Load. And so it is a plugin that you have to buy. It's additional to Final Cut, but it gives you some different abilities that you don't get with Final Cut stabilization. What you want to do is stabilize the footage so that you get out any bumps or any small movements so that the footage is completely seamless. And then what you do is you speed it up. So you put it at 500%, 1000%, 2000%, whatever speed that you want to make the hyperlapse really zoom through the footage. And another cool thing you can do is you can speed ramp the footage. You could go from a real-time shot and then speed ramp into your hyperlapse, zoom through whatever it is that you're doing. This works so well when you're doing travel films and you're showing like a location and you just want to show the chaos of what's going on around you, or you want to do like a cool visual of a specific space or a building. You can do some really cool things with hyperlapses that will really enhance your films, no matter what it is that you're producing. Alright guys, so I hope this tutorial was helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the description below. Guys, we got some really cool stuff coming up on this channel. I can't talk about it yet. Next week, me and Rachel are doing a huge announcement. Something big that's coming. It's going to be a ton of fun. And April has a lot of surprises coming. Alright, so I hope that was helpful. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, hit that little bell icon so you make sure you don't miss the next one. And guys, if you haven't already, jump over to Instagram and come find me at Jeven Dovey. And that is it. I will see you on the next one.